Hello again, everyone. This is the kicker tier list video or ranking video, whatever the hell you want to call it. Alrighty, let's go ahead and get right on started with this one. To be honest with this one, it doesn't really matter too much. There's a few kickers on here that I think could be ranked higher or lower. I wouldn't go out of your way to try to trade for a kicker, obviously. There's a few guys that might do significantly better than I think a few other guys on here, and I'll say when that point is in the video. Other than that, yeah, they're kickers. Let's get into it. Coming in at 12th place, I got myself. I don't even have a fucking kicker. I'm that of a prejudiced person towards kickers. I hate them. You know. I seriously just hate them so very much. And I don't even have one. I would take the extra bench spot, to be honest. At least for now. Coming in at number 11, we got MILF. MILF, I'm trying to get you higher in these vids, man. I'm trying my best. I promise, but man, you're not making it easy. Young Hoku. Now, Young Hoku in years past has been a pretty good kicker option in fantasy. Very good option. Usually their Falcons are getting a lot of field goals, that kind of thing. However, they're using Desmond Ridder as a quarterback. I don't like him one bit. Sure, they got Bijan Robinson, so they got an upgraded running back. But I don't see Atlanta having a very good offense at all this year. Plus, Young Hoku, since the end of last season, and it carried over into the preseason, if anybody watched any Falcons games, Young Hoku has actually been struggling with field goals a lot recently. So yeah, I'm just not sure how well he's going to pan out. I think he's not very safe compared to most of these other kickers on here. Heck, I could see the Falcons potentially cutting him by the end of the year if he keeps this up. But we'll have to wait and see overall. I have him at 11 for now. Coming in at number 10, we have Booty Basher. Booty Basher actually has 2 kickers, but I don't really think that matters. You only get to start one. If anything, I actually think it's kind of silly to hold more than one kicker. But he has Harrison Butker, who I think could finish top 5 in the league in terms of kicking if he can stay healthy. However, he does have the issue of he got hurt last year, and I don't know if that'll affect his kicking or not. I hope it doesn't, but overall, it's still a possibility. And on top of that, I do think he will downgrade a little bit compared to how he's been in years past, and here's why. They're now getting Sky Moore, who's going to be healthy this year. They're getting the addition of Kadarius Toney, and they're getting the addition of Rashee Rice. So I think, if anything, the Chiefs will probably be scoring more touchdowns than they are kicking field goals compared to years past. I don't think it'll make too significant of a difference, but overall, I don't think he's going to be as safe of an option as other guys, but you do have that high-end upside eventually if he can stay healthy and the Chiefs decide to start kicking more field goals. But Mahomes, they're going to be scoring touchdowns left and right. And then you also have Jake Moody. The 49ers got Jake Moody. They picked him up with a draft pick in the draft, which I think was pretty stupid. What was that, a 3rd-round pick? Overall, I think it was pretty stupid. They had Robbie Gould, who was really good for the Niners. I don't trust a rookie kicker in terms of fantasy, at least starting him. Maybe if you see he's doing good later on in the season, pick him up or something, but I really don't think he's having too much on your roster. You could probably cut him, to be honest. Coming in at number 9, Evan, you're another one. I'm trying my best on these videos to get you up there, man. You gotta meet me halfway here. I'm trying. I promise I'm trying to get you somewhere higher than the bottom 4 every video. But, yes, we have Evan, and if this thing will ever load, he has Greg Joseph, kicker for the Vikings. Now, he's a very safe kicker. I think he'll do solid this year, but he does have a little bit of downside, which pushes him down to the bottom 9, and that is the fact that Minnesota tends to play in cold weather, whether they're going into stadiums like Chicago or Green Bay. They end up playing more games like that where they end up dealing with bad weather, which could screw him over for a few weeks if he's not careful on that. Other than that, he's not like a elite kicker or anything. He's just going to be a safe option for most weeks. I don't think he'll outperform some of these other kickers on the list. But that little fact that he's going to be dealing with things like the Windy City, Green Bay, it's just not looking like the best scenario for him. So overall, I just have him at number 9. He's not a bad kicker, not a great kicker. I don't really know what you want me to say about him. Coming in at number 8, we have Rictatorship with Evan McPherson. Now, with Rictatorship, I really do like Evan McPherson in terms of being a good kicker with a lot of upside. But I think he'll actually fall back compared to how he did last year because I think in the same way as the Chiefs getting more weapons, I think the Bengals getting a healthy Jamar Chase back, maybe a healthy Joe Burrow, and plus Irv Smith is a good tight end for like end zones and stuff like that if they're ever at the goal line to help them out, so that way they're not relying on field goals as much. I think Evan McPherson takes a step back because in terms of all those people coming in and getting healthy and being ready to go, I think it actually hurts the kicking game a bit for fantasy. He's still a great kicker in real life, though. But I think he'll be seeing less field goals and more extra points, and that usually doesn't work out too well, though. Coming in at number 7, we have Karen's husband. Karen's husband has Tyler Bass, who is another kicker that is about middle of the pack, but does have the downside of Greg Joseph, as you saw with Scrambled and Wiggle Waggled, where he's going to be playing in quite a few games this year, whether it's in Buffalo, whether it's in New York, as you see with the Jets down there, where it's going to be games, whether it's in the snow and the wind. You'll see him in a lot of scenarios this year where it's probably not going to be that preferable. So I think he's a little bit lower than some of these guys in the middle of the pack, but he's still a great kicker overall. When the weather is clear, he should be one of the best kickers in the league because of how good that Bills offense is overall. But I have him just ranked a little bit lower. I have him ranked above Greg Joseph just because the offense, I believe, is better than Minnesota, especially with Minnesota losing their running game. So overall, I have Joseph a bit higher. Or not Joseph, Bass. Coming in at number 6, we got the middle of the pack here. We got Big Yawners, who has Brandon McManus, who I believe went to Jacksonville this year, if I'm not mistaken. Yes, he did. He went to Jacksonville. I'm liking his projection. That's a very good number, 9-11. But anyway, besides talking about the good old days, Brandon McManus, he's on Jacksonville now, and Jacksonville's kickers have done pretty good since Lawrence and the offense decided to blow up. I don't think he'll do as good as he did last year. Well, he'll probably do better than he did last year for Denver, but I don't think he'll do as good as the kicker did from Jacksonville last year, Riley Patterson, put it that way. Because they are getting Calvin Ridley, they're getting Tank Bigsby for the red zone. So overall, I think they're going to be in another scenario where they're kicking slightly less field goals than they did last year, just because of the fact they're getting more weapons overall. So I think they're going to be kicking more extra points, more than field goals. Other than that, I don't have a problem with him. He's a solid guy. I think he'll be really good with a high-powered offense. Coming in at number 5, we have Jason Sanders, a.k.a. Pussy, owns him. So Pussy is at number 5. He has Jason Sanders. He's in a similar situation where they might be getting all their healthy weapons back. Like Tyreek Hill is going to be healthy. Jalen Waddle might be healthy this year. They still all are very injury prone, but they're still going into the season starting, people like Tua. But he does have one thing going in his favor, though, compared to some of these other kickers. And that's that the Dolphins actually lost Mike Gesicki, so they're losing their starting tight end, which means if they end up in red zone scenarios, I could see them kicking a lot more field goals than they have in years past. So while some of these other guys I'm having overall go down because of the talent going up around them, I actually have this guy going up because of Mike Gesicki being their main red zone target, leaving. They're not really going to have a great tight end to use there. So I could see them kicking a lot more field goals in the red zone. So I have him actually going up compared to how he's been last year. There was actually a few years ago, where he finishes the number 1 kicker in fantasy before Tyreek Hill even got there. So yeah, I have him at a nice number 5 here. This is getting into the pretty good kickers, but not like the great ones, like I said, that actually make a big difference between the rest of the list. All right, coming in at number 4, we have Toxic Zenpai, who has Riley Patterson, and here's why he's up at number 4 compared to Brandon McManus, who was actually in Jacksonville. So Riley Patterson is going in for Detroit. He did fantastic in Jacksonville. I believe he only missed a total of 7 kicks, if I'm not mistaken, between field goals and extra points, and I think 3 or 4 of them were from 50-plus yard field goals. So that was the only problem, is that he missed a few field goals, but he was pretty good overall with the high-powered offense. Here you have Detroit. He actually gets a dome to play in. He actually does have the problem of playing like in the Windy City, kind of like Greg Joseph, but I think Detroit's going to be in an offense that's going to be kicking a lot more field goals than they are scoring touchdowns. I think they'll still score a lot of touchdowns, don't get me wrong, but I think they're going to be a lot more field goal heavy because, again, they don't have TJ Hawkinson anymore, so there goes their red zone target. They're going to be missing Jameson Williams for the first 6 games of the season, so especially for the first 6 games, I think Riley Patterson's going to be really good. Overall, I think the high-powered offense is going to get him into the red zone, get him set up for a lot of field goals. I think he'll have a great year. Coming in at number 3, we have PMC Wagner himself, who has Jason Myers. Jason Myers is the kicker for Seattle. I think he'll do close to as good as he did last year. I don't think too much is going to change. The only major addition that Seattle has is Jackson Smith-Njigba, rookie wide receiver. I think he'll do pretty good, don't get me wrong, but I do think Seattle's going to have a bit of a downgrade at their total offense with Geno Smith. I don't see him doing as good as he did last year. I've never been too big into Geno, as I said in the quarterback video. Overall, I think they'll be kicking a bit more field goals than they did last year. I think he'll just go up a little bit. Myers was, I believe, the 3rd highest scoring kicker in the league last year. So I really like Myers as a kicker. Coming in at number 2, we have Justin Tucker and Nick Folk for J-Bay. So J-Bay in 2nd place. This is a bit of a change up, isn't it? So we have Nick Folk and Justin Tucker. Like I said, I'm not really going to count too much in his favor for Nick Folk. He went to Tennessee. I'll talk about him real quick. He went to Tennessee. I don't think that's going to really matter much. I could see him dropping him. Well, if he ever fixes his team, I could see him dropping him by whenever he decides to fix his team. Yeah, I don't see Nick Folk really mattering too much. Last year he was pretty good in fantasy, but going to a new team, I don't think he'll matter. The main event here is Justin Tucker. As people like Toxic will know, Justin Tucker has games where they just decide to kick 93.5 field goals, and Justin Tucker can just launch it in from like 70 yards out. So obviously he has that upside to put him at number 2. This is where we're at the great receivers. There's only one other team that has a kicker close to this. At number 1, I think there's a big gap between number 2 and number 3 on this list, and everybody else is kind of really close together. But yeah, I have Justin Tucker. He can kick field goals from 70 yards out. The Ravens are a team that are getting more weapons, so their offense will be better, and they'll probably be kicking more field goals this year overall. They might be scoring more touchdowns. Who knows? Overall, I think it's just a better scenario for Tucker because last year the Ravens' offense was horrendous in multiple games, and yet Tucker still finished the number 1 kicker overall. So I have Justin Tucker at number 2 with J-Bay's team here. Coming in at number 1, I have Gotham Troublemakers. He pretty much has the Batman of kickers, and that's Daniel Carlson. Now, I think Daniel Carlson is in the absolute perfect situation for kickers. And here's the situation. They have the Raiders who lost Derek Carr and got Jimmy Garoppolo, so I think that's a decent downgrade at quarterback. They lost Darren Waller, so right there's your red zone targets right there. So I think Daniel Carlson's going to be getting a lot more field goals than he has in years past. They still have Devontae Adams, so it's not like their offense is decreasing significantly. Still have Josh Jacobs. They have the addition of Jacoby Myers, but I don't think that's going to really change too much in terms of the kicking game. So overall, Daniel Carlson finished 2nd place in kicking last year, second only to Justin Tucker, but it was only by 3 points. I think the loss of Darren Waller, the loss of Derek Carr means the Raiders are going to be kicking a lot of long field goals this year. So overall, I think Daniel Carlson's going to finish the number 1 kicker in the league this year. You know, it's very hard to predict the kickers here. You know, there's just so many scenarios that can happen. Fantasy kickers are just kind of irrelevant, to be honest. But next year, I actually wanted to talk to you guys about this. Next year, I actually have an idea about changing the scoring. I'll talk about it now. Actually, I had an idea about changing the scoring. Currently, kickers make 1 point per extra point. That would stay the same. They also make 3 points for a 30-yard field goal, 4 points for a 40-yard field goal, 5 points for a 50-yard field goal, and 6 points for a 60-yard field goal. Right, so you're kind of relying on long field goals or a lot of field goals to make the kicker game go up. I was actually thinking about something to make kickers more relevant and to matter more. So what do you guys think if next year we change the scoring of the kickers to make it to where they still get those points I just mentioned for field goals and extra points, but on field goals, they also get 0.1 per yard that the field goal is. So, for example, if the field goal is like 25-yard field goal, he'd get 2.5 points plus the 3 points he'd get for the field goal. So you'd get 5.5 instead of just 3 points, you know. I think this would be cool for people like Justin Tucker, people like Daniel Carlson, people like Harrison Butker that are kicking longer field goals. So when they kick these long field goals, it's worth like 12 points on the spot, and you actually have kickers that start to matter. This is just my opinion. Like I've kind of thought about it. I want to know what your guys' opinions are on this. I was thinking about it. We wouldn't do it this year because I want to keep the scoring the same this year because people already drafted their teams. But I think it would be a fun way to make kickers at least matter a little bit more next year. So let me know in the comments below or in the league chat, whatever you guys want. I'll catch you guys later. I'll release the team defense one next. It'll either be tonight or tomorrow, probably tomorrow. But I hope you guys enjoyed this. See you later.